ISD 701, January 4th, 2023, at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And welcome our newest board member, Sarah Gamarty.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And with that, we'll go to item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you will, if you wish, I should say. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, we have the item 3, accept the oath of office from Directors Lombardi, Nyberg, and Folger. Alex?
Yeah, please raise your right hand. I hereby accept the office of School Board Member of Independent School District Number 701 Hibbing for a term beginning the first Monday in January 2023 and expiring the first Monday in January 2027. I further swear and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of School Board Member of Independent School District Number 701 Hibbing to the best of my judgment and ability.
I will.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Sign this, and then Gina's gonna notarize before she does.
Both two signatures, Alex?
Yep, on top.
No, it's legal. And that being said, we'll wait 2 minutes because Director Egan's coming, but I'll explain the next process for item 4, the reorganization of the school board. It'll be for the chair, the clerk, the treasurer, and the pro tem. And what'll happen, I'll call out for nominations 3 times. And after that, the nominations will be closed. And then we'll need a motion and a second for voting. So with that, we'll look for nomination for board chair.
I'd like to nominate, oh, go ahead.
Nominate John Berklich to remain
Second.
as chair.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? With that, the nominations will be closed and I'll vote. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve John Berklich as chair for 2023.
Support.
Any discussion?
How many years have you been chair of the Rhode Island?
I can't remember, that's all on this.
That should have been a question before we decided.
That would be a test, I would have flunked.
First year I was on the school board, Kathy was the chair.
Yes, that was a horrible year
And
for
John's
me.
been, John's been the chair ever since.
Thought I wanted it, but no.
You were gonna ask that.
Close enough. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you. With that, we'll go, is there open nominations for clerk? I'll nominate Jeff Polter.
Support.
Or, I mean, are there any other nominations? Third, are there any other nominations? With that, the nominations will be closed, so I'll move to Jeff Polter, clerk.
I'll second, or support.
It's moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. With that, we'll open up nominations for treasurer.
I'll nominate Kim McLaughlin.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. It's been moved by Director Nyberg, did you say that?
I think so.
And then seconded by Director Polter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you. With that, we'll go to treasurer.
Pro tem.
What? Pro Tem, I'm sorry.
Nominate Kathy Nyberg.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations will be closed. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Support.
Moved by Director Polter, supported by Director McLaughlin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Now we can move forward.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Support.
We got a few other items here. With the reorganization.
Oh, okay, look, that comes under organization.
Uh,
Well, we can do it.
Trina has on hold that the new members take their seats.
Oh. I guess we can do musical chairs here.
So we're,
Are you gonna tell us, John?
What do you-
Explain it.
I can, John, if you'd like. I can.
Yeah, you gotta come over.
So
Do it?
Kim is in the spot for the treasurer. Where Sarah or Mrs. Gabarty is sitting, that's where the pro tem would be. And the clerk is right here next to me, and then the other seats are open.
Okay, as part of the reorganization, I'll turn the next portion over to Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
First is a resolution by the school board, ISD number 71, Hibbing, that the district purchased a blanket bond for $100,000 to cover the board members and school employees.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved by Director McLaughlin, supported by Director Polter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank
Next is resolved by the school board of ISD number 71, Hibbing, that the salaries of school board members will be $300 per month, payable monthly for regularly scheduled board meetings. The chairperson of the school board shall receive $350 per month, payable monthly for regularly scheduled board meeting. $25 per meeting shall be allowed for additional negotiation meetings and special meetings beginning with the 2019-2020 contract year.
I'll let Superintendent Rick comment on this before you take a vote.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to draw, or just point out to the board that in 2006, a board member received $150 a month to be a board member in 2006. In the year 2007, the board increased that to $300 per month. Currently, the board chair receives $350, and we do $25 for any additional meetings. What I'm just to throw out to the board, or I'm just suggesting, is that would be 2007. That would be how many years? 16 years since the board has seen any type of raise, and I would just respectfully submit that we increase that amount for board members to $400, $450 for the chair, and a $50 stipend for special meetings. Just a thought.
And I'm on the
Yeah.
Servers
I agree.
Cooperative. There are a whole bunch of other boards that are members of that, and that would be in line with other things.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, I agree with you, Superintendent Aldrich, but I was disappointed to hear that he said it's based on 15 years. I thought he was gonna say because we were such an effective board that we earned it.
Earned the raise,
Yeah. So-
Well, then we
No,
better
I-
double that.
Yeah.
We're gonna, I think that's fair because meetings are quite longer and there's more stuff like COVID pandemics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So would somebody want to make the motion for 400 and 450?
I'll make a motion that board members are paid $400 per month and the chair $450, and then $50 for the extra meetings.
Thank you.
I'll support that.
Did you get that, Alice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you.
Next, be it resolved by the school board of Independent School District number 701 Hibbing that the Mesabi Tribune be designated the official newspaper of the school district to publish the proceedings of the meetings of the school board and legal notices and display advertising at the legal rate. The officers are authorized to enter into a contract for the same.
So,
Moved by Director Nyberg, supported by Director Polter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I think we need to start looking somewhere else. We're not getting the support we're supposed to from the Tribune.
We can still do that
Right.
as long as,
I would, Chair, I would agree with Director Egan. that- And if I recall correctly, last year we did some pricing and we found another local newspaper that was even less costly.
Hometown Focus was about half the cost to publish our minutes.
but then didn't the Hibbing Tribune come down then?
They did come
Did
down,
we negotiate?
but it is still higher.
it's still
than
higher?
Hometown Focus is.
Is hometown still half, or is it not? It was half, but now not.
It is, I mean, where we got the break in cost from the Mesabi was more, it was kind of a package deal. You purchase the minutes and then you also get a cut rate on if you're doing other advertising or
Yeah,
postings or that type of thing. So it was a little bit more of a package, I guess, which we've done less posting in the paper and more online. And we've been successful getting applicants that way, so.
The nice thing about Hometown Focus is it's free. You can pick it up at local convenience stores, Super One has it, and you can get it online for free. And it puts the obituaries, everything in there, so,
really?
yeah.
I've never picked up a copy.
It's actually, it only comes out once a week,
Once a week, okay.
but, they rely mostly on community members as the writing articles in the city council and the school district.
What's it focused on, Hibbing, or all the towns, the whole range?
But
The problem I have is that, sorry for interrupting you, Kim,
No,
is our last meeting, we discussed a little bit about this, and we're not getting, I mean, the support. We don't get the article, we don't have the positive article about what we're doing here, what the school has accomplished versus what we've gone through for the last 2 years.
yeah.
And I think we need to have a supporting paper that's going to simplify and express how we feel about what's going on here. I don't think we get that. So granted, we do more social media advertising now with our website and everything like that. But it sure would be nice to have a paper in our corner to let people know. There's still a lot of people in this town my age that still read the paper. So
Yeah.
I just think it's something that has to be looked at, and whether or not we decide to go with them or not, if we can change it later, I guess.
well, we have to, by state statutes, we're going through this stuff for the audience and people at home. By statute, we have to name certain things for the year. So right now, I think we'd have to name them. Or,
Can I withdraw my support?
Or could we leave it open for further discussion?
Well,
what somebody, who would report this meeting? See, we have to have a place where people can, minutes read. So we would have to say, okay, we could do this until further options or something like that, or
Could I throw something?
or a month or 2 months or whatever.
I mean, I could go ask for quotes from both again and bring that to our next meeting. I think you're correct. I think we should approve that
Yeah, we
today. But then we could look at it at the next meeting, because we're not tied to it for the entire year.
No.
We could change it at any time.
But we have to, so this, we can do this for one more meeting.
can I just say one thing? We've been talking about this at least for 2 or 3 years, where we have, ever since Kelly Grinsteiner left the newspaper. She used to be at every one of our meetings and do a nice job, I think, covering our meetings. And And we've been talking about it every year since then, but we feel like we just don't get coverage or good coverage, positive coverage. So to me, as much as it is, to me, it's not necessarily about price. It's about, I feel as though all the good things that we have happening in our district are not getting reported. And I know that, like with Hometown Focus, when I had a chance to meet with one of the owners personally, he's willing to publish positive things about our school.
Well, we can name Hometown Focus now then, and go from there. If you'd rather, if you'd like to withdraw your motion,
Mr. Director, I'd like to ask Mr. Polcher to withdraw his motion and that we go ahead and approve the Tribune for a month, 30-day option until Mr. Aldrich can go out and get pricing from home.
are you all right with that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Get that straightened out?
But I think our issue is we don't like that they're not covering us anymore. That's our biggest issue, right?
Right.
Right.
So why don't we put our effort into trying to get them to cover us?
Well, we
Instead of saying we're leaving you. I mean,
did
why-
that before we went to,
But then they just said, no, we don't have a
Well-
reporter. I mean, how come Jesse White can't come to the meetings? I wonder.
He can't come on Wednesdays because he goes to the city council meetings.
But those are at the evening.
And is he the only
Right,
reporter?
but that's why he doesn't come, because I asked
But what
him that
time are
same
those
question.
meetings?
6 o'clock.
Well, we're at 3:30. You could do both.
I know
But I'm
Jim-
saying, that's my issue. We don't get coverage.
Right.
Mr. White has called some, and for some clarification, what he typically does is he'll watch the HPAT recording, and he might write a story if we're doing something that's of interest. The other thing I would...
I think that's rare, and
I
I don't
agree,
think
yeah.
he listens to all the meetings.
I agree. The other thing I was gonna say, if it's about coverage, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that we're gonna get a reporter from Hometown Focus.
No,
Right?
are we
That's
gonna-
more
are we gonna
submitting
get a report?
articles than it
Right.
well,
is,
that's what we can find out
yeah.
for a month. We'll do this, and then we'll readdress it. But for right now, we'll just, for this meeting,
And maybe that is, to me, a bigger issue is with, short of us writing our own articles, I don't care if it's Hometown Focus or the Mesabi Tribune, if they watch our meetings and write stories and we get positive coverage, I don't care how they accomplish it. But I feel as though that's been communicated to the Mesabi Tribune for a period of time and nothing's changed.
And just accessibility for people. Most people don't get the daily paper. You can get it online or get it delivered. It's expensive. And a lot of people just don't get it. They choose not to.
You withdraw your motion? Did you withdraw your motion?
Yeah.
I think it was
Then
my
I would like
motion.
to-
It was my motion,
Oh, your motion.
and I'm not
sorry.
withdrawing it.
Okay. Then you have to vote.
As long as they're separated.
well.
Did you withdraw your second?
If he withdraws a second, then we'll go. Is there any second for that motion? Motion fails, and we'll have a second. Okay, now,
I would like to make a motion that we approve the Daily Tribune on a 30-day basis and ask and proceed with Mr. Aldrich to go ahead and get pricing and make it very clear to both that we would like more coverage on what we're doing here at school.
is there a second?
Not as much as advertising costs, as much as I want articles about the job that the teachers and administration are doing in the school.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll support.
Okay, moved by Director Egan, supported by Director Polter. Any further discussion?
You know, this is if I can just comment, I look at the Hometown Focus, and they've got articles there from students. This gives us an opportunity maybe to start talking to our English department, talking to our department heads, and getting them to do a rotation of having to put something together, you know, quarterly or monthly or something. But I think people want to know what's going on here. And
Yeah.
sometimes the best reporters are right in front of us.
Well, we'll have to see if they accept too, so.
Yeah.
Chair?
Okay, yes.
Yes, Hometown Focus will accept articles. And I think our young people have been doing an amazing job on the online publication that they've been doing for the last at least year or longer. Is there any way that we can get a copy of that over to Hometown Focus and see if they'll publish any of those articles that our young people are writing about what's going on in their school? I mean, I don't know if
The
they're
What's
doing it.
Up jackets, was that,
I think so. I think that's what it's called.
comes out monthly? I think?
Yeah.
Well, we have to get the meetings, the minutes too, so that just make me.
But I could send a copy over and ask them if they could run it.
And I think I have some information.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
Next, be it resolved by the school board of ISD number 701 that the regular school board meetings be held on the first Wednesday after the first Monday of each month unless otherwise designated. The second meeting will be held 2 weeks after the first meeting unless that day is a legal holiday, when it will be held on the next day when legal business can be transacted, unless otherwise designated. The starting time will be 3:30 PM and the place will be the boardroom in the high school unless otherwise designated.
Is there a motion to accept this?
I'll make a motion for purposes of discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
Motion is seconded, purposes of discussion. Go ahead. It's open for discussion.
I would like to see a little bit later start time. I've said that every year too. I just think that it would make it more accessible to members of our community to attend if they'd like.
I
At least a
agree.
little bit.
I actually did some searching at, local districts, on the Iron Range. And we are the only ones that do it this early. Chisholm does theirs at 5, Rapids does theirs at 6, Nashwauk and Rock Ridge do theirs at 6. I even went and looked down in the cities area and they do theirs around 6:30 or 6. It just really makes it inconvenient for our community members. Most people work till, let's just say 5. It's hard to get here. I know last time that it was brought up in a board meeting, one of the reasons given to wanting to keep it at 3:30 was to hear from our student representative. There's a lot of times where they're unable to attend because they're in their sports, which is wonderful for them, but we're not hearing from them. And if we do push that back, we probably get them to attend to give us that feedback. But it should be what's convenient for the people at this table. We should want our community to be here. We should want to hear from them. So
But the intention of the school board meeting wasn't for the public. It's held in the public, but it's for the business conduction. And the reason the time was changed was the administrators, the teachers, and everybody wanted it so they wouldn't have to go home and leave the buildings. So that was, there's pluses and minuses on both sides.
sure, but I don't see it flooded in here with teachers
No.
or staff either. And admin comes, but they're on that rotation, if I understand correctly. So either way, they would have to attend. And I just think that this is a little bit better way of us being transparent and welcoming to our community.
We tried later times too, but we didn't get any better results, but it's,
We went as late as 4 at one year in the last 6.
Well, when we've had truth and taxation meetings,
6.
and we always would have one meeting in December till like 6 o'clock, nobody comes. We've had them at 4 o'clock, nobody comes.
not truth and taxation, it has to be held at 6 or later.
Right. But then we used to have it 3. And then one member didn't like the parking situation because it was difficult to get a parking spot before 3 o'clock. Understandable, but it worked for years. And we had dozens of teachers here sometimes.
Well,
Our administrators were all here, and people could be here if they wanted to. You know, and John's right, the meeting is for the board. So,
it's up to you people, you want to throw some times in, it doesn't matter to me.
I'm not opposed to going back to 3 o'clock, but 3:30 or 4 works fine too.
My favorite meetings were when teachers were here and administrators were here. That's when I thought it was awesome.
Well, when we
Because we could ask them any question at any time about any topic. And I love that. But then Rick decided to put them on a rotation schedule so they didn't all have to come every meeting. That was, you know,
But I like when the teachers could come in here with students at 3 o'clock, right from class pretty much. Do a
Yeah.
presentation on what's going on at choir, what's going on in
yeah,
the shop department.
right.
So it was a good, and then this.
I loved it that way, but not to say they couldn't still do presentations for us if we were later.
Well, you wanna try 3 months at 3 o'clock or something, and then maybe 3 months later go 5
No, I think
o'clock
the
or 6?
public, I think that, I don't think the public liked 3 o'clock.
And I think just
Well, you
there's,
just said.
I liked it,
Yeah.
I'm saying, I liked it. That's all I made my comment about.
I think 3 o'clock, there's too much congestion too. I
There
mean,
is.
Yeah.
You know, it's just too confusing, it's just.
I mean, would 4 help the public?
I thought it was purpose of the discussion was to pick a later time, not an earlier time.
Right,
I mean, even 4 o'clock.
the 4 o'clock would
Yeah,
be
go
better
at
than
4, might as well
3:30.
at 5.
You wanna go at 4?
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
4:30?
We never get anyone anyway. The only time we get public is when there's a big hot issue.
If you want the students, you have to look at the things. Right now, you have basketball in the gym, you have wrestling in the wrestling room, and you have, you know, sports, right now swimming going on. So if you want the students, you have to maybe talk to the AD and see when practices end and everything like that.
Practices usually go until 5, correct? For the sports in winter anyway, or even in the fall, it usually is a 2-hour practice.
Yeah, but it's not the students so much. I liked the administrators here. That's what I liked. We can schedule students anytime to present on a topic.
What
I
time?
think.
But
I don't know, John.
But you know, it's nice too, the current rotation, I mean, before administrators were here, but now I think it's very nice when we get updates and the reports that the administrators give. I think they're very informative,
Well, they are.
you
They
know,
are.
rather than just
Yeah.
being here if a question arises.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I appreciate that.
There's good and bad all the time, different times. I don't know what to say.
You
What,
wanna-
what is the reason that we wouldn't want it at a later time where our community members who work can attend, have the option to attend? Why are we so opposed to having it at a later time?
We're not.
We're
We're
not.
waiting for somebody to throw out a time.
I think an option that we go for 4 o'clock. Motion, that's it.
But we can't, but there's a motion and second.
Yeah, we're just for
I'm sorry.
discussion.
Oh,
For
yeah, yeah.
discussion.
It's,
Okay.
But that would be your choice for it.
well, just go on the field, I mean, I like 3:30, it's convenient. It's what people used to.
I mean, we could try 5, I guess. I'd be fine with 5 if that would help the public come. I don't think they'll come, but if it would help, I don't know.
Well, the motion's
I know.
for 3:30 now, so. I'll
So
take
should
it
we
to a
have,
vote.
do we vote on 3:30 first and then see where that ends up?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll take roll call vote. 3:30,
Yes.
3:30,
No,
3:30,
No.
3:30,
No.
3:30.
No.
2 yeses. Sophie, then yes. Now,
You're out.
is there another motion? I didn't want to
Yeah.
feel bad by myself, so.
yes, I'd like to make a motion and to offset the 3:30 to 4, for 4:30 for our meetings to be held
I'll
At
second
4:30?
that.
at
I'll-
4:30.
I'll support that.
It's been moved and supported to change the meeting time to 4:30. Any further discussion?
Does that affect HPAC or anything like that? Is that going to be a problem for them? No. The only other thing I'm concerned is that it's going to overlap even more with city council meetings. Because they're the same time, from 5 to 5:30.
Well, we can't worry about them, they don't worry about us, so.
But you know what, the only thing is with us, we don't have like live stream meetings. They have, so people can't watch ours live anyway, right?
I talked to HVAC before, they were gonna try it, and I talked with their IT person. They were gonna try to live stream this,
We've discussed that.
yeah.
Then
I think the council meetings are at 6, correct?
I thought they were at 5, unless of course there's a HEDA meeting.
That's their HEDA meeting.
Yeah, when they have a HEDA meeting, it goes later. I don't do those, so.
So what time are the meetings? 5 or 6?
I think their HEDA meetings are at 5,
This
and then
council.
their meetings at
6.
council meetings.
I think the city council might be at 5:30, it's between 5:30 and
But
6.
HIDA is also televised, right?
Yes, but that's,
Okay, all in favor for 4:30, say aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 4:30 is the starting time.
These are not listed on our agenda, right, what you're announcing here?
Yeah, I don't think they
Why
are.
didn't they get on our agenda?
It's part of the board reorganization.
They're in your
Where?
packet,
Are they in there?
In my packet that was online,
the packet that came to you
the what,
on
online?
passageways online, yeah.
Oh,
So does this take effect on our very next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next, be it resolved by the school board of ISD number 701 that the business manager be authorized to prepay certain claims to take advantage of discounts.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Director McLaughlin, supported by Director Duarte. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next, be it resolved that the school board of ISD number 701 that the business manager be authorized to make payments through the use of electronic fund transfers and shall report the same to the school board each month.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Director Egan, supported by Director Polter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next, we are looking for a motion for a representative to the Minnesota State High School League.
And our current rep is Director Nyberg.
Do you ever meet or anything with that? Or
though I had a couple times I had the kids that had gotten in trouble with sports and violations and they appealed, and so there was an appeal meeting that I had to attend, and participate, but that's all I remember really doing.
That's great.
Bob?
I would like to make a motion to continue with Kathy Nyberg as our state representative because of her past experience.
The chair will
Such as coming
The chair will support. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Kathy.
Next, we're looking for a motion for a director to be named to the legislative liaison to the Minnesota School Boards Association.
What did I make Berkeley?
Or
Moved by Director Polter, supported by Director Egan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll do that. Thank you.
next, we look for a motion for a director to be appointed to the Title I Parent Advisory Committee.
And that was Director Martin that served in that role.
To Title I? or-
Yes.
Is that what you're, is that? Sorry.
And do they normally meet like early during the day?
That I don't know. I don't know. That's typically would be Mrs. McDonald or Mr. Barty. I know they have 2 meetings a year, and I guess I don't know the time of day that they meet.
Mr. Aldridge, it changes. I was a parent rep on that board. for-
Oh, okay,
so-
thank you, thank you. Is it typically 2 meetings?
Yeah, at least 2.
At least 2? Thank you.
Sometimes more, they try to vary it, location and time.
Thank you.
Ms. Sarah, would you be interested?
Sure.
I nominate for a motion to approve Mrs. Barty,
Second?
seconded by Director Egan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next, we're looking for a motion for a director to be appointed to the Community Education Advisory Council.
I would like to volunteer for that, if that's okay.
I'll nominate Director Nyberg,
Support.
supported by Director Duarte. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next, we are looking for a motion for a director to be appointed to represent ISD number 71 on the executive board of the Arranged Association of Municipalities and Schools.
I'll
No.
cheer for that.
But
We didn't get on, we didn't get.
no, so
I know how it works.
I stepped back after
Right.
6 years. We appointed or forwarded Director Polter's name. And once we forward a name from our board, the Rams directors vote. And our Hibbing School Board does not have a voting seat at the table. We're fortunate that Superintendent Aldrich represents the superintendent's group. But I have a problem with that, and I've said this at Rams for the last probably 4 years, that this school district is probably one of the highest paying dues members in Rams. And we aren't gonna have a vote at the table.
I had the
Problems
opportunity
with
to, I saw the list of people that were elected to the board. If you remember, the night of the annual meeting was a blizzard. So John and Rick and I were scheduled to be there, but we.
As was I, and I'm a voting member, but we
And
couldn't
we
vote.
We couldn't, there were no absentee ballots, there was no telemet, whatever. So now the board is weighted very heavily to the East Range. A lot of very, very small townships, et cetera, that are out there. And we're, for lack of a better term, open cold. But what Kim said, it's big, your dues to Rams are based upon the size of your community.
This is the first time I can remember that that's happened.
So you mean we don't have anyone on Rams?
Nope.
They didn't,
Rick is a superintendent
That's it?
representative, but he's not representing.
why didn't they want a Hibbing person?
No idea.
If we have no representation on this board, do we need to belong to this board? And
Then I don't
secondly, do we
think we
need to
should-
pay
yeah,
the dues?
we
to
shouldn't
belong
pay
to
dues
the
then.
board? We have no say in it.
They don't want a
I'm
rep?
not sure if
Are you
benefits
kidding?
outweighs the. So you're still on the Rams?
My superintendent's
Group,
nominated me to be the, and they had to vote on me. There was a vote to collect them.
But I need to speak up, though. We are fortunate we have Superintendent Aldrich on Rams, because over the last 6 years, I've been there and there've been other superintendents. And Rick really advocates for schools, because I kind of feel like it's a little bit lopsided in terms of municipalities and cities, and he brings a good, he really represents schools well in his group, but I just think it's in poor taste that probably one of the largest paying dues members does not have a seat.
Why don't we table this one until
Well,
Rick can find out, just like you said, then we won't pay. And if we're one of the biggest payers,
Off top, you know what we paid for him?
Too much.
So I could just share with you quick, I would say that whether we took action tonight to vote a representative to be on the Rams board, we don't have a seat. So this probably should just be null and void.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I have on the agenda to come up for the next meeting, to pay the Rams dues, which I believe are $17.50. So that's coming up in the next meeting for a vote. So if you'd like me to gather any other information between then and now and then, I sure can. So
I would ask that you forward a
Yeah.
letter or personally call,
Steve
find out
George.
why we're not getting any representation on the board, and let them know that if we don't get representation, they're not getting their $1,750.
I can tell you why. There was, I believe there were 14 candidates for 11 open seats, if I remember correctly. So Jeff did run, and he was on the ballot, he just wasn't voted in. So there was Jeff and 3 others, I think, that weren't voted in. We won't be able to demand membership on the board, because they'll follow their bylaws and follow the process and say, apply for the next election.
It'll only be
But
for a
again,
year anyhow. so.
It's a year, but yeah.
I guess I look back at what we talked about, and that's what's best for this school and what's best for this
I
district.
thought those were 2-year terms.
Completely agree, Mr. Ian.
they are two,
They're 2-year terms.
Are all of them 2-year terms?
but there's probably
A cycle, yeah.
So instead of voting Jeff in at that 11 out of 14, you said? Or what?
Yes.
They voted some small 100 population little
Well,
area.
There was 14 names on there, they could
But
have
I'm
been
just
from
saying,
anywhere. It could've-
obviously,
could've
Hibbing,
been.
Rapids, and Virginia are the biggest districts
Yeah.
Yep.
up here.
Yep.
And they didn't vote a Hibbing rep. They voted maybe a rep of a little area in the woods that has 100 people.
French Township.
We're not paying our dues in my mind. No way,
So,
no way.
you know, maybe the conversation we need to.
Right.
Rams is a lobbying organization, right, for the taconite tax area. And the city of Hibbing belongs to Rams, but they also have their own lobbyist. I mean, again, maybe it's collaboration with the city. I don't know who their lobbyist is, but
And we are paying for Costin.
Yep.
I mean, we do have an agreement with Costin, so we do have a lobbyist that works for our district.
Who's the same Rams lobbyist?
Who is the same?
And what about the Hibbing lobbyist, who's that?
I don't know.
Because we should have someone working with the city of Hibbing lobbyists, right? That's what you're saying, Kim?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that might do us
Yeah.
the most good.
Could you ask me, could I ask one question, as far as Rams, where do they get their money besides the school district? They get money from IRRB?
Cities, municipalities, and
Other governmental
So-
organizations.
So this, the taconite money that was talked about by Mr. Jukovich 2 meetings ago was part of this? So that 5 cent could be part of it? And here, we're not getting a say in it?
well,
Something wrong somewhere.
but
I mean, I'm just
technically.
a dumb plumber, but.
Technically, no. Technically, the IRRB board and Rams board are separate.
Right.
Technically. But so I
Just
guess-
technically, well, just technically,
Well-
not politically.
And my observation is, so Steve Georgie was the executive director prior to Ida Ruckabee. So a year ago, Ida became the
Yep.
Rams executive director. And I feel as though in Ida's tenure, she's gone out and got like more corporate sponsors, whatever that means, right? Like corporate sponsors. But really, it's Range Association of Municipalities and Schools.
When you mentioned corporate sponsors, I would guess that there's probably quite a few Hibbing corporations that donate to this.
Well, like their annual dinner, that is sponsored for the most part by large corporations, suppliers to the lines. They pay for all the food, they pay for the rent, they'll buy a table for 10 people for $1,000 or whatever. But I think it's just not right that we don't have a rep on that board.
It's not.
And basically, there was over 400 people invited to that dinner that night, and approximately a little over 100 showed up. So,
That's,
Can I make a motion that we table this
There's,
until Mr. Aldrich has an opportunity to talk to the Rams? And this is on our next meeting, new payment, so we've got 2 weeks to figure out what's going on, and then we can decide at that meeting whether or not we want to pay or not.
I think there's really nothing to table right now because we don't have a voting member. I mean, we don't have a membership. I think the question, no, we don't have a director at the table. I think everybody that pays should have a vote. But I think the decision's going to become whether we want to continue to be a member of Rams. That's what we're going to have to vote on.
so we'll wait till we hear from Rick at the next meeting.
I can just say that, I mean, so Rams has a legislative advocacy agenda that would benefit the Hibbing School District. That's the only thing that I would say is that.
A current legislative agenda?
Yes.
Or always has a legislative agenda?
Well, so we just formulated it in the last 2 weeks, some of our items, and I included a bunch of items, particularly the schools, which made it on the list. So then their lobbyist, who's actually working also independently for us, Costin, will be at the legislature pushing those items for Rams. And I think when Jeff or Gary from Costin walk in and say, I'm here on behalf of the Hibbing School District, that has a reaction, but I think when they say I'm here on behalf of Rams, they get listened to a little bit better than if they're just down there advocating for us. So that's the only thing to think about is, I don't know what the implications would be of not being a member
See if you
and still
come up
being
with
included in that.
Some kind of a pluses versus minus, pros and cons.
Sure, okay.
But we can scratch it right here, just like you said, it's not a member of, we can't vote ourselves a member,
No.
but we can be a member of Rams, if you know what I mean.
And I think
Well, we'll wait till we hear pros and cons.
And I think that's what they say, because I brought it up at Rams meetings, that I think everybody that's paying to be a member should have a vote. And it's limited, I think, 24 voting members. And I think the reaction on the Rams side is, even if you don't have a voting member, like Rick is saying, somebody sitting at that table has a say and a voice, and together, when you put the voice of the Iron Range together, we're still benefiting in some way,
Right.
but
They might have bylaws and articles too that might come into play, so maybe you can
They do.
touch base with Georgie and see what the,
Mr. Chair, I also asked that Mr. Aldrich should give us a list of those that are on the board. Be curious to see
Mhm.
who and where they represent.
So there's 24, may I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
There's 24 voters, the
Yes.
Rams, that make the decisions?
yes.
And about how many people pay into Rams, roughly?
Oh, I don't know what,
I mean-
and I know since Ida Rukavina was the executive director, she increased the number of like small, I think she got more local, small townships and
I mean,
municipalities.
is it like 300?
Oh,
Or is it
No,
100?
I'd say under 50,
Oh, it's under 50?
maybe even under 40.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so it's potentially possible to let them all vote.
Well, this covers a big area. This goes right up to North Shore.
Right, but
Silver Bay,
but it's still only 50?
Grand Rapids, I
members?
don't know if it goes all the way to Deer River. Does it go all the way down to Crosby?
you know, I think they consider like the taconite tax area down to like Crosby.
yeah.
Well, they do,
It's
because I
Aiken.
already gave them money.
But I don't remember anybody from Aiken, like, being on the board. There was a lady from Silver Bay that used to come.
It's Crosby Ironton, but I don't think Aiken is involved in that. I'm,
Somewhere down there.
yeah, well,
The Crosby, Ironton area, they're both eligible because they're in the
Taconite.
Taconite district.
I mean, there are a number of paying members that don't serve on the board. I mean, I
That
think
don't vote.
that kind of ebbs and flows, you know, different, I know when I was on, the Chisholm mayor came on, that was the first time somebody from Chisholm has been on their board in years. So it goes back and forth, I think.
Because I think the city of Chisholm maybe left Rams for a while.
Okay.
I feel like they did, and then they kind of,
And they had that sewer thing going on.
Yeah, there's no penalty or anything that I know of.
but I think, you know, this is crazy to say, but I feel like it's not as much as I'm excited because now we don't have a voice at the table, but it's kind of like, kind of have to belong. You know, you kind of have to belong.
Cost-wise, it's really not
Yeah.
a lot, not $7,400, but it's just the point that
It just,
we need to have somebody on there.
you know, and maybe the thing is, since we don't have a vote, I don't think there's a formula for coming up with dues. And I think it's, every time I've asked what the computation is, how you figure out, you know, it's just, especially.
They don't know.
They don't know. So maybe it's
Yeah.
like, you know what, we can afford to pay you $1,000 this year.
But one thing,
Yeah.
and one thing to think about is, I mean, I can vote, I am a voter.
Yeah, you are, yes.
So, I mean, if there were issues, you know,
Yeah.
important to our board, I would advocate for that, no different than I would for the superintendent. And that's another thing I wonder when they look at who serves on the board and you might be sitting in by Wabick making a vote, maybe they see Hibbing superintendent has a seat. And it's like, well, Hibbing's already got somebody on the board, why would we, I don't know. I'm thinking for somebody else. But I'll find out who's on the board, I'll get you a list, and I'll come up with some pros and cons like you suggested,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
That'll be, talk to Steve Georgie too, he's acting, so. Okay, so we'll figure that out at the next meeting. Good.
So I would say this representative
Scratch it.
for the Rams probably should have even been pulled prior to this meeting, I
A long
apologize
time
for
ago.
that, so,
Sure
yeah.
they will.
Yep.
Next, we're looking for a motion to appoint a member to the Religious Release Committee.
And Mr. Berklich has served in that role.
For 27 years,
How many meetings we've had in 27 years?
2 I think.
Just check.
But I get phone calls every once in a while, but it's not, I'd be glad to do that. I get along with the pastors and priests and whatever, so,
We have to make a motion to approve you to go back on the board.
yeah.
Make a motion that we approve Mr. Berklich to go on the Religious Release Committee board.
I can
Support.
that. Kathy?
Moved by Director Egan, supported by Director Nyberg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
John, can I ask about that religious release you've been asked for discussion? Is it just 2 churches in Hibbing involved now? Does anyone know? I heard it was only 2 churches.
It could be.
Yeah, I guess we have to do it either way, but
Right.
it's really
Well,
not.
it's there in case somebody wants to call.
Two
They
churches.
closed a few churches too, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying only 2 churches that offer the Wednesday religious.
I talked to one of the teachers about it one
Training.
time, like a year or so ago, and about how many kids, when I was in school, 1 or 2
Everybody,
kids
yeah.
didn't go.
Mhm,
Now it's 1 or 2 kids do go.
right,
It's
So then you have to have it, so,
but you still have to have,
yeah.
so, it's kind of, I think it's unfortunate. that
And I think
we
the two are Grace Lutheran and the
Okay.
Assumption.
don't- And right, the Catholic,
Yeah.
yeah,
That have it.
that have it, that's it.
If I hear more about it, I'll let the board know.
Do they time those? Because it's Wednesdays, right? Like, do they
It's
try to?
Wednesdays, yeah.
It should always be at 1 o'clock.
Yeah? Do they try to time them now, like with our PLC days?
They work with us.
Oh, do they?
They work with us on developing the calendar and work with the principals and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay, next, looking for a motion for a member to be appointed to the District Health and Safety Committee.
And Mr. Polcher currently serves on that
I
committee.
think I've had for the last 4 years, and
I make a motion to select Mr. Fulton.
Chair will
Support.
well,
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Chair will support. Egan and Berklich. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next, we are looking for a motion for a director to be appointed to the representative of the world's best workforce.
And that was Director Martin.
I'll
I'll nominate Kim McLaughlin.
take that, yeah.
Looks like there's a slot for 2 there.
Did you, I'm sorry, Ms. Secor, did you have 2 board members on this year?
I
You
don't
just had
think we did,
Director
but
Martin.
it doesn't hurt to have two.
Sure.
Our next meeting is February 13th at 3 o'clock in the boardroom.
I think it's just the way that was written.
Yeah, just assume. Yeah, Director Nyberg,
So I'm gonna
second.
put 2 on there?
I think this is, we've always had 1. I don't know if this is just a typo
Typo,
when
yeah. I
we
think it is.
transposed it. I'm sorry for this.
This is really our academic committee, right?
Like what the SAR, wasn't it? what
I
the
mean,
SAR-
where testing is talked about and grad rates and
Yes.
everything related to academics, correct?
Well, it's academics, graduation,
Yeah.
reading well by 3rd grade,
Yeah.
all kids ready for kindergarten, closing an achievement gap.
It's very important.
Director Duarte, would you
If you
like to
want
step
to, I'll
in
take
with
it.
that too? Okay, we'll have 2 people for time being. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next, looking for a motion to appoint a representative to negotiations committee.
We've scratched that before because when it came up, we were gonna have somebody appoint somebody. That's why it says none there now.
Yeah, and I was going to just suggest that when we get closer to negotiations, then I would share that with the board
Then we can do it
and
at a
ask how
meeting
you'd
at
like
that
to
time.
give, I mean, for 1 person to serve on all of the negotiations, that's a big commitment. So if you wanted to break it up, different groups, different members, you can certainly do that. But I can bring that to you when it comes time.
And I'm always willing to do negotiations and done it for candidates.
Yeah, same here, whatever. So,
And I would like to do that too. I enjoyed it last time. It was a good experience. Yeah.
When does that happen?
Yeah, I wish it would happen in the spring. I'd love to have it happen in the spring. I think that our largest groups will want to wait to see what the legislature does.
Okay.
The contract expires on June 30th. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
really, last year we were doing it last time we were doing it in early fall, I believe.
Okay.
Late summer, early fall.
and there's no reason why the whole board couldn't do it, but when it gets down to that, then it depends on how many people are on the other side, so you don't want to look like they were being ganged up on, so it's, and like you say, we could break it down with groups.
Yep.
And if somebody could pick their groups, whatever they want, when the time comes.
And all the different unions
Right,
expire at the same time, right?
They do.
So we have to negotiate with all of them.
Yep.
so there'll be enough work to go around for that, so.
Okay, and lastly, looking for a motion for a representative to the Chemical Health Advisory Council.
nominate Mike Egan.
That, currently it's Director Nyberg. And I think,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think this
No,
gets,
I didn't do anything with that.
but I think that gets a little bit morphed together with your high school league role, and like you talked about being with that, in that appeals process. There's language about chemical health
Excuse me.
Oh.
in our high school student manual.
So what, is there a chemical health committee? Or not really?
See, I think this is something that Hibbing has had, but it's old language. It's old.
Oh,
The MDE used to require a chemimal health advisory council. They don't require that any longer.
okay, so.
But we've kind of morphed that into that high school league role
Yeah.
that you had, and then also if someone wanted to appeal their decision.
Yeah, but maybe we should get rid of that then.
Wasn't there a Hibbing Chemical Health Advisory Board?
I've served on
Yes.
chemical health advisory
There, yeah.
boards for probably off and on for 20 years.
But that's what
It used
this
to be-
was, right?
It used to be at the college, and Patty Miller coordinated that, and then we meet at the Fairview building.
And then wasn't Lori Vanderver involved?
Lori was involved in that, and that's since kind of.
It's kind of fizzled
it's-
off.
It's
Yeah.
dissolved,
It
yeah.
has, yeah.
It cycles
Right.
around every X number
But
of
I
years.
think that's something where if people start getting enthused about making a new committee, then they can come to us and we'll assign someone. But I mean, right now, it's not,
There is no committee.
there is no committee really, so I think we should
Yeah.
scratch it,
I'm fine with that.
yeah.
So the only other one, excuse me, Alex, the only other one that we didn't add on here because we didn't really have it, we didn't do it officially as a board last time. But we did have Director McLaughlin and Director Martin serve on a finance committee. And sometimes Alex and I have things that we'd like to run by the board and just talk about it. And we met, maybe twice last year. So if that's something that you want to formalize, or if you want to continue in that role, I think Alex and I would appreciate having somebody to bounce ideas off of.
And I would be on it again as the
Like I said,
treasurer.
she's a treasurer, that
She's
Yeah.
the treasurer,
That
makes
makes
sense,
sense.
yeah, and that's her background, so I'll nominate Kim as the finance committee.
We should probably have another, right? I mean, if we want a finance committee, because it might, going into negotiations and budget stuff, there might be things that we need to do.
Any volunteers?
I volunteer.
Very good. I'll nominate Sarah DeWerty, Director. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Egan. Any further discussion? Thank you for volunteering. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Right, well,
Yeah, that was quick. You're welcome. With that, we'll move to item 5 now, motion to approve the agenda.
hold on.
Moved by Director Polter, supported by Director Egan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Then we'll move to item 6. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move.
Support.
Moved by Director Polter, supported by Director Egan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. With that, we'll move to item 7, public comment.
We have none, Mr. Chair.
We have none. With that, we'll move to item 8, personnel. Turn that over to Superintendent Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Item A is a motion to accept the resignation for purposes of retirement from Mary Coho, job number 2, secretary, 22.5 hours per week, buildings and grounds, effective February 28th, 2023.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Director Nyberg, supported by Director McLaughlin. Any discussion? Other than the letter I'll be going on?
Yes.
For Director DeWerty's information, that's when we get retirements, we always send a letter from the board to the district saying things for the years of service and stuff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, thank you.
Item B is a motion to accept the resignation of Natalie Shutter, school psychologist, district-wide, effective June 2nd, 2023.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Director McLaughlin, supported by Director Nyberg. Any discussion?
Yeah, Nathan, how hard is it going to be to fill this?
Have you ever seen a unicorn? It's gonna be
I was
hard.
kind of, I was expecting that.
It's gonna be hard, yeah.
Can I ask what makes it hard about it? Just is it the duty or the background, the experience? What about it?
Well, there's just a staff shortage in general in special education positions. So last year I went to a conference for school psychs and, trying to dredge up some interest for Hibbing. And most of the young professionals that I met with are typically interested in being in the Twin Cities. And so I found that I've had luck with connections people have had with either the area or Hibbing in general, or just, the Arrowhead region. So, but there are openings right now currently for school psychs in Grand Rapids, Itasca Special Co-op. They haven't been able to fill their full needs at the Northland Learning Center, Virginia. So it's a shortage in our region particularly. As you get farther south, there's less. It's just that there isn't programs offered on the Iron Range or Duluth anymore like there used to be. So, but we've been, Natalie, and I was going to talk to her when I get a chance to talk to you, but Natalie was a graduate of University of Denver, and her mother told her, we have family in Grand Rapids, why don't you apply in Hibbing? So she really had a good time being here. She's an excellent school psychologist. It's just she's far away from home. Her parents live in Maple Grove, so it had nothing to do with the job. I think if you talk to her personally, she really enjoyed working here. It's just that she was homesick.
Anything to do with the salary?
The salary is very competitive. So in fact, what you'll find is probably some of the salaries for the jobs that are in the cities will be less.
Because I know psychologists and social workers, et cetera, around here, their salaries have
Salaries are good.
gone up significantly in the last 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good contract.
How long have we had that position in our district?
Oh,
A while?
Nathan, and
Well, she
We've had our own psych
replaced
for years.
somebody that was in that position for 30 years,
Okay,
30
so
plus.
long term, we've had it for a while.
Yeah, Brian, in fact, what was nice about it is Brian Ridgway retired, and because Natalie was an interim, the requirement is you have somebody licensed that they supervise. They have to supervise them, so he came back going forward as supervisor for year one, and then he stayed on just because our needs for testing are pretty high. But yeah, we've had a school psych in place for a long time. Yeah.
They have to have a license, obviously.
Yes.
What's the
There are
closest?
there are certain evaluations that are required for specialty evaluations, and you're required to have a school psychologist license. So that's why it's hard, because either way, if I don't find anybody, I'm gonna have to find somebody to do those assessments, evaluations.
Oh, I see.
Have you looked at Northland perspective yet?
Well, it's a teacher, it's a bargaining unit position, so I have to apply that way. I have found though that the outside agencies don't necessarily have a school psychologist license for the state of Minnesota. But yeah, they definitely have the credentials to do some of the tests, but they don't have the license.
Okay.
But yeah,
And you can't, it's not like teaching where you can get an unlicensed person and use them for like a
No.
year?
no.
You can't at all?
The only thing you can do is hire an interim, which means they finished all their schooling, and the requirement is they have to do the job for 1 year.
Okay,
And that's what we did with Natalie.
yeah.
And then this year, she was fully, officially like a tier 3 license or something like that.
So it's not just a psych 4-year degree?
No,
It's
it's
more
a
than-
master's plus.
Oh, it's a master's,
40
okay.
credits.
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy, yeah. They do offer online stuff, so it's an option, but
Mhm.
yeah.
so Mr. Lutzke, I mean, he's already working to try to find a replacement. And if we can't find a replacement, we may have to go with an outside agency that provides that service, and it's very expensive, probably twice our costs if we had to go that route, so.
I do recruit, by the way, and everybody knows I do.
Oh, do you? Good.
Yeah, I do. I call, I mean, so I have leads, but
Does Bemidji have a program?
Moorhead does.
Morris?
Moorhead's an online one that's
And the
in our
big
area.
U of M?
U of M does, yeah.
Okay. But not UMD?
Not you,
Not
see,
the-
like most of the psychs that were hired in our region went to school at UMD or UWS for any years. They don't have those programs.
In either of those colleges? Not at UWS? Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, it is. That's where Brian Ridgway got his license.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you. Thank you for the little break and signatures. With that, we'll move to item 9, administrative reports. Student director, and go to see Hibbing here. Principals,
We've had a student representative for some time, haven't
yeah,
He was at the last meeting, came in at the end and just said hello.
He was at sports.
So are you on to your principals?
yeah.
Yeah. So Mr. Letzka
Yeah.
is here today from our
You
special
kinda stole
education
my
director.
topic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I was just gonna elaborate on Natalie Shutter leaving, just to kind of review what I had talked about. Natalie is leaving because of wanting to be closer to home. She has been a wonderful asset to us in her time here, so she'll be greatly missed. I will be trying to find a replacement for that position. It's been I would say a hallmark in our staffing for special ed over the years. Brian and Natalie currently are not only doing evaluations, but they're always in the mix with crisis teams, referral review teams for students that need extra help. They're providing insight to the counselors. They're doing a lot of different things. So in the times we live in, and school safety being on the forefront, having that type of expertise at the table when there's serious issues is really helpful for not only myself, but the principals. And I know that I'm not the only one that feels that way.
Just yesterday, for example,
Yeah.
we had a teacher bring down a student for a behavior issue, and with unpacking all the stuff that was going on in her life, she started crying, and it became apparent that there was more to the story than what the behaviors were. And so Natalie came right to my office, walked her to her office, and took care of that, and there was a lot more going on. So she's been really, really great, so we're gonna miss her.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think people in the support staff roles in our district, and even teachers, I'm pretty sure that there's been opportunities to save a life, and I'm pretty sure that that's happened this year with Natalie. I know it's happened with Brian, I know it's happened with teachers, so, but it's just nice to have that support. So I'm gonna wish me luck. I wish it was live streamed because we're looking for a school site. So if you're interested, give me a call. Yeah, I'm just feel fortunate that we got to meet her and that she worked with us. So a couple other things that's been happening in our department. We're going to take a more active role with the Family Service Collaborative. There's a board of directors for the North and South. I'm the vice chair on that now, and the reason I got involved in that is there's the opportunity to ask for additional funding for different pet projects that we might have. And so I'm hoping, being an active player in that, I can get people encouraged, people in our district, people in our community, to maybe ask for some extra funds for different things that we might need. REACH is an example of a program the high school is looking at. Maybe there's some money there available to maybe get some supplies, curriculum, things like that. So every little bit helps, especially now. So I'm excited to be a part of that committee or vice chair. The District Wellness Committee is continuing to meet monthly. We're getting momentum for the second half of the year to provide some more opportunities for students, try to get more kids included in the day-to-day operations. Renee has done a great job at the high school changing the school culture. Of course, it takes a village or a team, and there's definitely a lot of people on board with that. It's happening everywhere, so I'm just excited that we're continuing to meet. It's got momentum, and looking forward to talking. Probably the principals will too share some of the things that we're doing in the future with kids, students, and hopefully supporting staff.
That district wellness committee, I'm sorry, I'm just jumping on.
No, jump on board, yeah.
That's the committee that we have, it's the social services I took from
Yeah,
St. Louis
Northeast
County.
Service Co-op, yeah.
And they have been instrumental, and Rick wrote a grant too to try and get that speaker, the dynamic people to come in, and they're going to do a parent and community event on social media, the harms and things to watch for, and the do's and don'ts on, you know, your devices for students. So they're going to do a parent,
Conference night on the 8th.
yes, on
Yeah.
March 8th, right after conferences. So conferences end at 6, so they're going to start at like 6:15 in the auditorium. And then the next day, they're going to put on 3 presentations to students, geared based on the age. So they'll have the young kids, the middle school level kids, and then high school. So that's something that this committee does.
Yeah, and if you're available, I would encourage you to go to one of them. I think we've heard really good things about it, and that's the thing. Aubrey Hoover, who's on our committee that works for the Northeast Service Co-op in the county, is definitely has her net out as far as what's really good, what's effective nationwide. So these people go all over the country, and so we're really excited to have that opportunity.
They also put out a survey to all of our staff on their own feeling of workload, stress, what we could do as admin or, you know, to support what their needs are. And so that those results were just sent to us today.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss that at the next meeting too.
Yeah, and the results to make sure that people took the survey seriously. We told ahead of time that it would be confidential and only be looked at by the committee. So yeah, I sent it out to the committee to review, and then next Monday we'll meet to kind of talk about what the next steps will be, what kinds of activities or supports we can kind of ponder and try to embed into the day-to-day. Because I mean, you know, there's a lot of people that do a really good job, but are tired and want to be recognized and supported, and these jobs are just very hard. So we just want to make sure that they're loved and that we care about them, and that we can try to make an impact to help their job just a little bit easier once in a while. So.
Will you be giving feedback on the next meeting about those results or the main reasons or feelings of our staff?
Yeah, I can do that.
I think it'd be nice to see that.
Yeah, I mentioned the confidentiality piece because there is just there's things in excerpts and things from the whole report that maybe not a lot of people want to be just thrown out there. It's nothing. I'm not trying to say that we're not being transparent. It's just that we told them ahead of time that this is voluntary. It's going to be confidential. Only share with the group. But the overall, like, what we're going to do based on the data, yeah, I can definitely highlight that. And definitely, we're doing this to try to help everybody. So
The whole staff, not
Yeah.
just special ed, everyone.
Oh, no. The
Everyone.
District Wellness
Yeah.
Committee is a committee, and maybe I should explain that better. There's all walks of life on there. I was asked just to chair it just because of my district level role, but we have principals, we have social workers, we have counselors, we have community, you know, with Aubrey on the board or the committee. So, I mean, there's lots of different different experiences we bring to the table. So.
But the survey was given to,
Just to
and not just to Hibbing, it was given to
everybody
schools
in the
around the
region.
range.
Oh, everybody.
And then they gave us our just our Hibbing
Just the Hibbing
results.
results,
Right.
okay.
And yeah. And-
Right.
And you aren't gonna share them because you told them it was confidential?
Well, we can't share like
Well, we don't
probably
need
the.
names, obviously.
Right.
No, but overall, like what you're
Yeah.
saying,
But you could
It's
say
pretty positive.
50% were dissatisfied or
Oh, well,
feel
right.
unappreciated or whatever.
That part I'm not worried about. It's
You
that-
can share that with us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. It's just that if you look at, the report is 54 pages long.
Yeah,
And within that report, there are excerpts about specific people's comments.
oh, yeah.
And so
Oh,
I
that,
think we're concerned about, we don't want somebody that was being honest
Mhm.
about what they felt, and that somebody might say, oh, that's, you know, I was told this would be confidential, and that was the reason.
Okay.
The other stuff is just like any other world's best workforce Minnesota report card.
Mhm.
You know, the Minnesota report card has surveys on how students feel about their teachers, that they feel accepted. So, no, the concrete stuff is definitely something.
You can share with us.
Absolutely.
And there are no names. There
There's
are no
no
names.
names.
But
Director Nyberg, I think, so there was, I think 8 different sections, 7 or 8 different sections of the survey where they focused on different areas, different questions, and then each one, they allowed for an open-ended response.
Right.
And my concern, and I shared with Nathan and the group, is that by reading those open-ended responses, you could potentially identify who the person is by what they said. And the intent was that, you know, this wasn't going to be put on Facebook and shared everybody's comments, but the general outcomes of the survey, absolutely, we can share that. And, you know, this many were happy, this many were dissatisfied, basically we can share that information. We want to bring it to our committee first on Monday and get their thoughts, but we'll definitely share that.
We haven't digested it yet. I mean, we got it right before vacation. And so I just wanted to get it out to the committee to kind of chew on before we meet. But, you know, my role is basically facilitated, you know, kind of how we use the information and disseminate it is kind of, you know, I just wanted to remind the committee to, as before, you know, we send it out or talk about it, let's look at it and see what we're going to do with it. You know,
So who administered the survey?
So the Northeast Service Co-op had, boy, this is kind of complicated, but so the Northeast Service Co-op hired somebody to try to provide supports and resources for school for the aftermath of COVID, meaning teachers are burnt out, kids are behind, so they in partnership with the county, they hired this position. I think there's actually state dollars tied to it. And the person,
I believe she's managing a grant for them.
Correct.
That the service club applied for, so that's her role.
that's her role. It's Aubrey.
Yeah, Aubrey was with the county and we hired her at the service, I'm on a service squad, yeah. And
Okay. And she's office out of there.
I gave her some information that he'll pass on to you. She gave a little speech yesterday at the meeting, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Yeah. So she I believe worked with an agency that put together a survey and then gave it to superintendents to review, and then it was disseminated out by districts, and it was sent out at this. There was windows of time that they sent it out to each. So because I facilitate the committee, I sent it out as a district memo to everybody to take, and then I think it was like October, right before MEA. And then we had a second round where he did a reminder like in November or something like that. And then it took a while to put it all together. So no, it wasn't something we created. It was the same for every district on the Iron Range. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll move to item C, committee reports, anything? Hearing none, we'll move to item 10, administrative business.
1 second,
Oh,
John. Sarah, would you mind, just being the new member on the board, just to give us some context, like a little bit, introduce yourself, background, maybe what schools your kids are in or grades or what?
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. Sarah Gabarty, I graduated from Hibbing High School in 2000. My husband also attended here and graduated a few years before me. We've got 3 kids. We live in the district. Jack is 17. He does PSEO. Joey is 14, technically 8th grade, but he does homeschool. Jenna is 13, 7th grade, technically also does homeschool. They do sports all year round with the Hibbing School District. My background is really in banking, business, finance. Graduated from Bemidji State University with a 4-year degree. And
Perfect. Thank you.
Just a quick question, do we get money from the state for the kids that are homeschooled? I mean, you know how we get money from the state for each student? in our district? Do we get money for the homeschool students too?
No,
I don't think so.
Oh, we don't?
No.
Okay,
no.
just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, with that, we'll move to item 10, administrative business, Sir Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well,
Item A is approve a resolution to allow school board members to be covered by the school district workers' compensation insurance policy.
I'll move.
Or moved by Director Polter, supported by Director Egan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you.
Item B, approve the corporate authorization resolutions for the school district depositories, Park State Bank, Minnesota Liquid Asset Fund, PMA Financial Network, Robert W. Baird and Company, Security State Bank, Hibbing, U.S. Bank and Hibbing, and Wells Fargo Bank and Hibbing.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Director McLaughlin, supported by Director Polter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that's part of an annual thing too, for the people at home, for the audience. Every year we do that, the reorganization meeting.
Item C is motion to appoint the following as school district legal counsel for the 2023 calendar year. Rupp, Anderson, Squires, and Waltzberger, and Pace, PA, Colosimo, Patchen, Kearney, and Grunfeld, PD, and Freiberger, Buchanan, Smith, and Frederick, PA.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Director Nyberg, supported by Director Polter. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question. So I feel as though I'm most familiar with us using Rupp and Anderson. Do we use these other firms quite often?
We do not. We do
Just
not,
curious.
but I think it's nice to, if a situation were to arise and for some reason we pretty much use Rupp, Anderson, Squires for everything, but if they weren't available, just to have somebody else to
Sure.
call.
Yeah, I was just curious.
We've used these others
A lot.
In the past.
in the past, yeah. So
Oh,
We don't have a retainer for
I
that.
was just gonna say,
No.
no, it's just that I guess we've done business with them.
We used to use Colosimo quite a bit.
Guys do all the labor stuff.
Yeah.
And it's Brentford too, but so. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you.
Item D is a motion to approve the payment to the Hibbing Area Chamber of Commerce for 2023 membership in the amount of $1,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Director Egan, supported by Director Polter. I'd just like to make a comment on this. This is a local chamber for 1,000. And we have Rams for 1,700, just a short comparison of prices. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you.
Item E is a motion to approve the application for collaborative sponsorship of robotics between Hibbing Public Schools and Chisholm Public Schools beginning with the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Director McLaughlin, supported by Director Duarte. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. I mean, I'm appreciative to Chisholm District for entering into this agreement so our students can participate in robotics.
Right, that's a good thing. What? I won't comment any further. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you.
Item F is a motion to approve the choir senior trip to New York City, April 27th, 2023 through May 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Or moved by Director Polter, supported by Director Egan. Any discussion?
I have a question about that. What are the requirements? Is it strictly senior, any senior can go, or are there other requirements to be able to attend that trip?
So Mr. Sikora was at a meeting prior to Christmas and he gave a presentation on it. I guess I don't know the answer to
I
that
think it's
question.
seniors.
Seniors
I
are.
thought it was just seniors too.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he said this trip was going to be seniors, right?
Right.
Maybe next year, did he say he was?
They might open it up because there were so few kids this time, I
Yeah.
think, but he
So
was
no-
happy.
No grade point average or anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, they didn't say that.
Well, choir members, right? I mean, they had to be choir members.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He has
Sure.
guidelines, so he does have guidelines and they have to be in choir. So it just
Sure.
can't be
That
another
makes
senior
sense.
that just wants to go on a trip to New York City. Because they're going to be, when he did the presentation, they talked about how they're going to go to a musical workshop and hear from the people that are actually in the performance, and then they're gonna go to that performance that night. And there'll be some opportunities for them to to sing here and there, but it's not the entire group, it's just the senior kids.
I think you also
But-
mentioned the local.
Right, but they have to,
Local kids.
like these kids, they have to keep up on their schoolwork. They can't let their grades slide, so.
And I think it was gonna be time that, if I recall, that they weren't gonna miss many days of school.
Right.
It was gonna be around a holiday.
It's like 2 or 3 days of school at the end of this week.
Really no different than all of our sports teams, there's a lot more.
It's a good experience, a life experience, if nothing else.
And I just would reiterate, I'm so appreciative. One of the best experiences was being able to chaperone the band like to Calgary. So these are amazing experiences for kids, for our students.
Good discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you.
Item G is the first reading of policy number.
One thing here first, if I may, for Director Maury, first readings, there'll be 3 readings altogether. The first one is just that we kind of okay this, and then we could bring it, it'll come up at next meeting for a second reading. By that time, the director should have read something if they want something changed or added, and then on a third reading, usually just a vote to put in place.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Item G is the first reading of policy number 713, bus accident. Item H is the first reading of policy number 714, fund balances. Item I is the first reading of policy number 715, student activity accounting. And item J is the first reading of policy number 717, uniform grant guidance policy regarding federal revenue sources.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to item 11. Oh, go ahead.
Chair, so I have 2 questions or comments. When we had the audit report presented at the last meeting, did we talk about at this meeting, there may be conversation about our unassigned fund balance and continuing to maintain 8%? Or was that changed? I didn't look back.
But
It
we were
says
gonna discuss it, you mean?
Yeah, I thought there was.
We were gonna
We
discuss
were
it.
gonna discuss it.
And I might have said that this, the 700 to 714 has that language in there about the
Oh, yeah.
8%.
Right, and it says, okay, so it says 8%. Do we need to have any discussion about that?
We will on the second reading if you want.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry if I think what I meant to say is that this was going to be coming up in the policy at the next meeting is what I maybe had said. but-
And I'm okay with 8%, I just, yeah.
8% is a pretty standard number for school districts. It's not so high where it ties your hands, but it's not so low as it's dangerous either, but we can certainly.
We just went over that yesterday with the service co-op to all these different districts. And it's just a floating target, whatever you feel comfortable. And I don't know if you're familiar with service co-ops or not. It's all in northeastern Minnesota, from Grand Marais, Silver Bay, up to the Falls, to Hill City, Moose Lake, to Grand Rapids, or to, Nashua, Keewatin, Grand Rapids. It's a conglomerate of all the school board members. There's a board of directors, which I'm chair of that, over the offices in Mountain Iron. And there are 9 of those statewide, also on that board of directors. You try to get together for corporate purchasing, healthcare, or insurance, or stuff, any way to help all the districts to get better payments for insurance and stuff like that. And Knowledge Bowl is held over there. Each one has their own kind of little niche. And if you're gonna be at the MSBA, I can introduce you to some people and show you. So that's, anytime we say service co-op, that's what
Great. Or Kim, is that, you were talking about OPEB? Is that what you were talking about? Or what was the 8% again?
So
Remind me?
8% is the targeted, unrestricted fund balance, general fund balance,
Okay.
that our school district targets to maintain.
money in the bank for emergency.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's in the,
so that was a separate discussion from OPEB.
Yes.
Right.
But I thought we were also gonna follow up on OPEB
OPEB.
as far as
other
putting money in, you know,
employee benefits that
yeah.
cover pensions for teachers retired. We used to just go year to year, somebody retired, we just fill in, but now we put some money, a couple $100,000 now, or
Couple million.
a couple of million, I mean, two in there, a couple.
1,000 million.
So if something were to happen all at the same time, this helps us a little bit.
So, but weren't we gonna discuss, is that, are we putting in the amount we wanna be putting in? Because we used to go year by year, like you said.
Well, I think what we discussed is that some people bond for that, or some districts, excuse me, some districts bond for that liability. We pay as you go.
We pay as you go.
We pay as you go, which
Aren't
means
we putting money somewhere also?
So yes, we have a little over 3 million sitting in a restricted fund that can only be used to pay off OPEB liability. So it's kind of a little safety net that the board set aside to say, hey, let's try to start chipping away at this.
Okay.
And what I had suggested at the last meeting is that money serving us the best by
So
sitting
that's
there.
what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I thought we were gonna have a follow-up discussion about that.
So and we certainly can, but what I think as we start to work through the budget for the upcoming school year, in the next couple of months, I'm gonna be bringing some ideas to the board, how we can,
Okay, and you
Kinda
might be
rate that ship.
rating that money?
well, possibly. I mean, I don't know that that's.
Better use.
Not the right time, better use of that money, yes.
Yeah. I see there's lots of initiatives and programs that we're gonna have to start making some tough decisions on. And to have 3.5 million sitting there that we can continue to pay as you go for OPEB, I don't know if that's the best use of it. I know why we did it, I understand why we did it, and it makes sense. And it does make sense in a climate where we're flush with money. But if we're potentially making cuts, that might be a way to soften that blow a little bit.
But that money, we haven't put any money there other than the little bit that we get from imputed interest on our investments. We haven't, like, since I've been on board, put money there. Didn't it come to being because there was a change in an accounting standard or something? And one of the old boards decided to leave it there and keep it restricted.
5 to 6 years ago, you had to start recognizing this outstanding liability of $41 million.
Yeah.
So then the previous board had set aside $3.5 million for severance.
Yeah.
I don't know, 3 or
But we
4
don't do it on a yearly basis. We're not setting aside
The board
money.
took action to reinvest anything that earns.
Interest.
Reinvest it into that fund.
Every year we
Recommitted.
put
Or
money.
recommit it, okay.
So if it earned $50,000, that would.
It'd go right back into the, and that's what our board, because I was on that board, and that's what
That's
we
what-
voted on to do?
yes.
Okay,
Just the interest.
okay.
But what Mr. Aldrich is saying is that we have the authority to levy for our costs, our OPEB costs. So paying as we go, we have sunset language in our contracts, so we can levy year after year for that.
Okay.
And that's money that might be better used in the time of need.
Yeah.
I think that was the discussion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if we levy for our OPEB, so right now, we're taking roughly $2 million a year out of our general fund budget to pay our OPEB liability current year, right?
No.
Not out of the general fund. I mean,
I mean,
we're levying for the dollars.
yeah, $2 million. Okay, so is there a maximum? If we're levying for OPEB, we can exceed the maximum.
Correct.
So that's how we pay as you go, we levy.
We do, yes.
Okay.
So
We
and
don't
I would
take- We don't
say,
take the money out of some savings account.
no, and I
We
would
levy
say,
every year
you
for
know,
it.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I would say about 70% of school districts in the state of Minnesota do just like we
Do
do.
what we do.
Yes.
Levy every year to pay the retirees.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a deal like 10 years ago maybe where they were going to allow us to levy for the entire ongoing cost, which for us at that time was approaching $100 million. It was just crazy, but the legislature would have allowed us to levy for that $100 million
Yeah. There
over
was
like 10 years or 20 years.
There was an option to go out and sell bonds.
Yes.
And the other 30% of the districts sold bonds and held in a trust that they used to
That was a one-time shot.
One-time offer.
Yeah, a lot of people
The
didn't
cost
go
of it
for
is
it.
extravagant for homeowners.
Oh.
It's been crazy expensive.
But then in essence, if you're levying for that, I mean, I know there's no then maximum, but if you're levying for that, it's money that you can't use elsewhere. Correct. In your general, for your general operations. So,
Only for that obligation.
right.
And just to clarify, the 3.5 million, the interest off that, each year goes back into that fund? That interest can't be used for anything else?
Not unless the board takes action.
And that's what we're looking at? Is that what we're going to discuss?
Well, once we get a little bit further in the process, what I would maybe bring to the board is to say, do we want to use a portion of that restricted $3.5 million to offset some of our other losses that we've had in the last couple of years?
So we want to use the 3.5 million or just the interest that would be?
The interest hasn't accumulated to much of anything in the last few years. I mean, we're talking a couple of $1,000 bucks.
The whole works.
It's not much. So,
Okay.
no, I'm talking the principal, maybe going after some of the principal.
Something to think about when the time comes. See how drastic the cuts would be here. Maybe not necessary.
Have you heard anything from the legislature as far as what you think they might do as far as schools?
I just,
You don't know?
it's so interesting, right? I mean, sitting on that, $17.5 billion, every
Right.
special interest group is out of the, come out of
Wants
the
it,
woodwork
yeah.
and has a plan for it.
Well, Walls made it clear yesterday that, free lunches is near the top of his list,
Is it for all kids?
Yes.
No matter what income?
no matter,
Yeah,
all kids, all grades.
okay.
I met with Spencer Igo and Rob Farnsworth before Christmas, and they were both very, very hopeful that some of that surplus will go straight to education.
Yeah, and I've had the same conversations with our local reps, and I think we talked before about that cross subsidy in special education, that dollar amount that costs the district that we don't get reimbursed for.
For the PSAs you're talking about?
For all of our special education
But I'm
services.
saying, for instance, the
It could
PSAs?
be, yes.
Yes,
could be.
because we don't get money for that. We just
Not
have to keep
necessarily,
hiring
correct.
more and more and more of them, yeah.
So we are backfilling the cost of our special education program to the tune of about 2.2 million
A
out of
year.
the general fund
Okay,
to pay our special education bills.
yeah,
So this funding the cross subsidy would be that 2.2 for us would come in as revenue.
I want to add, though, that this is a government problem. The reason it exists is because it's not fully funded.
Right.
because
So
it's
that-
not what?
Special education is not fully funded.
Exactly, but yet we're required to do
Right.
certain things, but then they don't fund it.
Right. Well, not fully. So
Fully,
It's a byproduct of not being fully funded by
Yeah.
the state or the federal government. So I mean, but it is a real problem, and because what happens is that your reimbursement is maxed out, so every expense that happens at a certain point, then it's taken out of the general fund.
Yeah, it's really an unfair system.
No, it's like unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
You have to do this, you
You have to
figure
do
out
this,
how
but
to,
figure
yeah.
it out.
I want to point out a couple things. So, if you look at the amount of our cross subsidy versus our neighbors, we're not high or low, we're kind of in the
Right in
middle.
the middle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ours is 2.4 million, Duluth is like 12.
Ooh.
And so, and then if you look at, there's a report I could share with the board, I shared it with the administrators. If you look at the amount of PSAs, the average in the state is 1 to 10. We are like, out of 328 school districts in Minnesota, we're like on the bottom half.
As far as number of PSAs?
Right, one per para to student. The average in the state is one
Para per
para to
10
10
students.
students.
And
Yeah.
what are we, do you know?
We're about 13.
One pair for 13
Mhm.
students.
But we're like, I don't know, we're like one, yeah, I can't remember the net number, but we're on the lower half, yeah. We're the
That's-
lowest, yeah.
That's surprising. I
Mhm.
thought we would be on the higher part.
No, we're not.
Huh.
There's some districts in our region that are 1 to 5.
In this region?
Mhm.
Okay, and we're 1 to 13.
1 to 13, close to 13. So we're not, so granted, but, right, we do have a lot of staff, we do have a lot of needs, but I will tell you, just by the sheer reports that the state provides us, we are not on the high end, but we're closer to the low. Yeah. Duluth is the lowest out of the group. Yeah.
Wait, when you say high-low,
So so for one para, they have more students. So it's
is that when you, that's what you mean by high and low? I thought you
Right.
meant number of PSAs.
No, so
In
like
the
if you look at
district.
the top, the
Okay.
number one district in Minnesota that has the lowest ratio.
Yeah,
So for one para, it's like 5 kids, right?
is on the low end of the list,
That's on the high end.
high end of the list.
Number one, you don't want to be number one on this. You want
don't
to
wanna
be
number one.
328.
You want to be low on the list.
We want to be
And
lower
where
on the
did you
list.
say Duluth was?
Duluth is, yeah, I don't remember the number. I don't remember.
But they're pretty bad?
No,
Whatever.
no, they have less paras.
They have, their parents will have more students.
I
Right,
will make
is that
up
what
a
you're saying?
line block on this. Good looking at them, I saw
Yeah.
that.
Per parent.
Just
Sorry.
don't stop breathing on me.
So the cross subsidy, I feel like that's just
I'm
been
not the
such a high visibility and widespread issue
Yeah.
that
Well, I'll
I
give you an
think.
example. This is where cross subsidy gets really hard. So you look at special transportation, which is a huge expense in our district. So I look at Rick and Alex and I say, so let me get this straight. We are lowering our routes, we have less kids on special transport, but the costs are higher than they were 10 years ago. So that's the other problem, is the costs are going high, the service is actually decreasing, but we're still accumulating more cost.
Is that 'cause of
So
gas?
that's the other thing, the services we have are getting more expensive too.
Oh,
Even though the number of kids we have on special transit has decreased. That's the other problem.
Because our transportation
Everything goes
over
up.
the years has.
It's so black and white, it's really black and white.
So, this is really hypothetical, but like now, because there's such a large state budget surplus, if they said, yeah, we're gonna fund the special ed subsidy, or the cross subsidy. right?
Kathy, the reason, I didn't mean to confuse you, but the point I was making about the pair ratio is that when you get into this discussion about cross subsidy, where we're at and all that stuff, the point I'm making is that we are not on the high end and we're not on the low end as far as our expenses, we're right in the middle. So when people say, oh, well, obviously we should just cut more paras or we should cut special ed teachers, that's not the solution, because we have a lot of unique needs and kids need help. So it's unfortunate that it becomes like a match between what we should do or what we're doing because we're doing a really good job. The other thing that Renee kind of nudged me when we were talking here is if you look at our MCA scores for special ed, we are way above the state average, between 7 to 8%, and we blow everybody out of the water in our region. So even though the percentages based on like what we're trying to get at goals may not impress you, but like if you look at where the kids are at, where they were, how we're making progress, it's very good. So we're doing really good things here. So just keep that in mind as we have these discussions. So that's why I bring it up, not to try to confuse you, because my world is super gray, super gray.
Yeah, and I just hope that if the legislature decides to fund that subsidy, that they're in it for the long haul, so we're not making
Right.
plans or not making plans based on that, and then next year or the year after, they come back and say, oh, well, we can't afford to do that anymore,
So
then we're really gonna be in a jam.
So the conversation is right, $17.5 billion, but they're saying out of that $17.5 billion, that nearly $10 billion of it is one-time money. So they would not commit the one-time money to the cross subsidy. So the cross subsidy, the projections on fully funding the cross subsidy for the state of Minnesota per year in the current climate and cost is $2 to $3 billion. So 10 billion's one-time money, that's off the table, that's gonna get used up, whatever. So they basically got about $7.5 billion. Just the cross subsidy alone is nearly half of that amount. Once they start fighting down there, right, I don't know what's good, and we want money on the formula, right? Our costs have increased and our rate of revenue coming in has not increased, so we're asking also for money on the formula, which would be another $2 to $3 billion.
We want both, we want money on the
So we want
formula
it all.
and we want the cross subsidy.
And we want free, and we want free lunch.
Yeah, free,
And no taxes on our social security.
Right.
I heard $3 billion on school lunch too. So I mean,
Won't turn
there's
anything
tough
down.
choices.
I just want to add one thing to give you a kind of perspective. In the month of September, the amount of early childhood referrals statewide was over 3,000 in 1 month. That is a record. And if you break it down by district, in Minneapolis, that's 60 a day. So you think about statewide, we have a huge need for services for kids, and it's not getting any better. And there's not enough people to do the jobs. So we are definitely catching up with other parts of the country in crisis as far as the amount of kids that have needs and the staff that aren't able to do it. So, yeah.
Good discussion. We won't turn any money down. But it should be put into a formula instead of a one-time deal, otherwise you're,
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna be.
any other discussion items?
I have two questions, and it's just because I'm new. As I'm sitting here hearing that rattle and the white noise, I know that HPAT had mentioned to me, these really aren't on, right? These are not mics?
They're not, no.
But I know, from sitting on that end of the room and watching this recording at home, sometimes it is difficult to hear. Some of us have louder voices, softer voices. Is it something where we can actually have microphones so it is easier to be heard? Or was there a reason why they were here but not on? I'm just...
Yeah, so, so in talking with Ron Workala has shared some of those concerns. If this air recycling unit that serves this side of the building, it's not zoned where we could just shut this room off. If you shut it off, we're shutting off this wing.
Sure.
And I don't know that's something I could talk to Tyler about and see if that's something we could do to bring down the noise level. The mic piece, I mean, somehow we'd have to coordinate with HPAD to tie the mic into their camera system. So I wonder if you had a remote mic that you could plug in your camera and somehow set, in the center of the.
From what I understand, I don't know all of it too, I'm still learning some of this.
Yep.
But I have spots here where this mic, because I use a boom mic,
Okay.
and so it hooks up. I would literally have to have cords, as far as I'm aware, and cables going up into the camera to pick up everything.
Right, but we could and I don't know if these mics are so easy, could easily be tied in, but maybe we had a port, right, with a mic here that you somehow connect to in the wall over there next to where you plug a camera. I mean,
It's a possibility. We'd have to talk about it, see what's available.
I'm gonna meet with Mr. Workla Thursday morning, so I'll ask him what he recommends the best thing to do.
well, so
I know what he wants money.
Well, so I've talked with him numerous times, and he would like to have the same system that they have at City Hall,
Yeah.
which was
It does make things easier
100,000
though.
plus. It was a big system. This, I mean, just what we did here recently with the ability to like Zoom, I think this was 40 grand, and we didn't really do much when you look at it. I mean, we didn't. So it would be expensive.
Even if these are here already?
Well, I'll have to ask. I don't know
Yeah.
how hard it would be just to tie into one of these mics.
So you could just make these project sounds look louder in the room.
Awesome.
Maybe if you put speakers,
Didn't know about.
If you had
Was
speakers
that
out
easy as that?
around?
Sure.
We can
Yeah,
close
we've
it
been
down.
talking about this for a long time, so maybe we get something, you're gonna talk.
So you'll talk to Ron?
Ron?
Yes, I will.
And then my other question was, I know now with the documents that we received to go along with the board meeting, there's 51 pages. And my question is looking through those, none of them seem to have private information on. And I know on our website, we put the board meeting minutes and we, have the link to the agenda. Is there any reason why we can't share with the public the data that isn't private on our website? So they have the documentation that we're looking at that goes with the meeting that we have every month?
So you mean there's the agenda, right, that's sitting there that the
Yep.
public can grab, but you're talking about the board packet that has more of the,
Correct. And I'm sure that sometimes there is going to be information that we can't put out there, but it would be nice to give people the option to know what we're given and what we're going off of. Because
Yeah.
it's all public data.
Sure.
We have to have, under policy, right, a copy of whatever we get has to be posted in the boardroom.
Posted in the
Or
board.
available in the boardroom.
Yeah.
That's what the policy is, right?
That's all public information, except like health or stuff,
Correct.
medical, and then it's not.
Does Trina scan like the agenda to put it online? I mean, how does this stuff get there? I mean, somebody-
Well, so there's access that can be given in board book, in the, is it board book? Is that what we use?
Yeah.
On board. On board. The access can be given to access on board. I wonder if there
To
could
the
just be
public?
well, I wonder if there could be a generic access, right? That just,
Here's where that came from. We used to get just the board pack or the agenda. And some of the board members wanted, so we wouldn't kill it or spend a lot of time discussing at the meetings to make it, okay, here's the information you need for backup like this. And then we went to a consent agenda also. Otherwise, we didn't have all that information before. But now, like you say, because if we all get that, unless there's something that's private or data privacy, I don't see why they couldn't, we wouldn't put anything in there. It's,
Yeah,
Right.
why wouldn't we put, wherever we put the agenda, wherever the public gets the agenda, why wouldn't there also be something to click on for the background documents?
Well, they're not
Unless
making,
they're private.
they're not making the decisions until we come to the board meeting. That's part of the way everything is public. So we discuss stuff like that. But it was, like I said, we used to get 3 pages or whatever. Then the discussions would come out here. Well, what prompted this to be on the agenda? So that was a way to explain it to us.
Yes. We needed that background. Are you saying it was given to us as board members?
We never used to get it.
Right.
Years ago.
You
And then
just get the
people
agenda.
wanted more
Yeah.
backup before they come to vote on it. That's how this got started.
Right.
Otherwise, and that was never distributed to the public. There used to be the table there with copies of everything. But the only thing was the agenda and not the backup information. So that's a good point. We should look at to see what the,
That's a very good point. You just have to be really careful not putting private things.
well, and we never
Would.
would, I mean,
Well,
yeah. There would never be anything in there that, I mean, like for instance, if somebody had a medical issue and was requesting a leave, we wouldn't have documentation in the packet that described the nature of it or.
that's true.
Disciplinary action on that.
Right.
That would be a closed session,
Yeah.
But
if it was non-public data.
So in that case, there would be no reason not to have it in digital form somewhere for the public,
well,
correct?
so,
Or not?
no, well, to be honest, I don't know, but I know who does, and that's Trina, and she's not here.
Yeah.
Let me ask, I'll find out,
Thank
I'll
you.
find out why.
The cities also, like their agendas are online, but their council packet is not online either.
Right.
well, a lot
I
I
of
don't
don't
know
know
why.
why, I'm just saying it's not.
Maybe you don't have to put it on the background documents.
we don't have to.
I mean,
You
maybe,
got 50 pages of financial stuff or something. Who's gonna look at that or who wants it? Plus it eats up their space on the computer.
yeah.
If Trina doesn't know, I'll call MSBA and just say what's best practice, and I'll get an answer for you, what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's not required, but it's, like you say, best practice and see what the others do.
Yep.
I just thought it would be a nice way, again, if our board meetings are the times that they're at and people can attend. And if they do watch at home at some point, at least they have it. It's just the option. They may not even look at it ever, but it's there
Right.
for them if they want.
Yep. I'll get an answer, I'll find out.
Okay, is there anything else?
I have one last item to discuss, I know you want to go.
I want to
Talk fast then.
Okay, we talked about our cooperation in sports with Chisholm.
Yes.
We come to a date when we're going to take a look at that, our athletic director looked at it.
Yes, so Mr. Turner was going to, he was at a meeting in Duluth today, I don't think he was ready today anyway, but I asked him to pull all that information together to come and share with the board on numbers of participation, what that looks like, and then also for him to give a recommendation on what he thinks would be best for us moving forward.
You can put that on next week's, or next meeting's agenda.
Yeah.
Can I request also, Mr. Turner, gives us a presentation on the trainer and how we're associated now with Orthopedics Associates, right? Isn't that who we're tied with
Yep,
for physical trainer?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And he said, he told me privately that he could get a lot more if we associated with, I think it was Essentia, I'm not sure. But I want to hear more about that, because we should be going with Orthopedic Associates if Essentia is going to, you know, give us a check for $100,000 or buy us weightlifting equipment, or, you know what I mean? Why wouldn't we go with the most beneficial healthcare provider? And I want to hear that from him, and he told me he would talk to the board, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Sure.
So if you put that on your
Yep,
list to ask him
absolutely.
about that.
You know, and I just say, somebody asked me the question, and actually Monday before that horrific start of a football game, we have defibrillators in the high school, in the Lincoln, right? I mean, somebody asked me, like for cross country and football,
We do.
is there portable, are there
Coaches
portable?
take them with them, yes.
And our coaches, and I'm sure they are, but I'm just asking, are our coaches trained in CPR and,
I can speak from experience being on the football staff, that each one of us at the beginning of the year, either go through a training procedure with Julie or representative, and then you're also taught how to use a defibrillator, and how you are taught to do resuscitation on the field if you have to.
And with the defibrillators, there's a short instructions on how to use it.
I just didn't know if like for cross
Yeah.
country, when we host our meet here, or when, you know, when our trainer is not at that event, if there's somebody there.
We have traveling
Defibrillators.
defibrillators, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so is a defibrillator, dumb question maybe, different than an AED or same thing?
Same thing.
Same
That's
thing,
what it
okay.
is.
So we have them in all the schools, so if we're having basketball games somewhere.
Multiple locations.
Okay, so I guess the question is every coach involved in with our students trained?
Yes.
How to use it?
Yes.
Every coach,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Understood.
Yep. That's, well, actually every staff member, because that's part of our beginning of the year annual training that we do,
Okay.
has information about defibrillators.
Okay. What about the memorial building for hockey?
They've got them there.
They have them there and
They've
people
always
that.
got a paramedic or
Okay.
first responders on duty for a hockey game.
Okay, I mean, some of these things, you just, if you never talk about it, you just, then people ask you, you don't know the answer, so.
You know, and I think it would be nice to have some of our students, and I know we offer like the CNA class, but there's some high schools around the state where it's kind of a thing in their high schools where a student has the opportunity to be trained in CPR and first aid. and-
It's mandated, so that's one of the reasons we put health in the curriculum now, is because every student that graduates has to have a first aid and CPR class.
Wonderful.
And so-
Really?
Mhm.
I
And
did
so
not
we've
know
been
that.
doing it in our Phi Ed classes, and that's how, so for, you know, a unit during one of the Phi Ed classes, they put that in there. So all our science teachers and our coaches and all the Phi Ed teachers and health teachers, they have been trained in it, and I went through that training as well. And like Mr. Aldrich said, the staff go through it. But every single student that graduates has first aid and CPR, and they have the option of getting the little blue card too.
Nice. That should be put on their transcript too, that goes to colleges. Should be some little thing that says CPR licensed or
Oh, well,
something.
But you have to be recertified every
Yeah,
so
so
often.
it's part of the health, it's part of the health component that you have to do that.
The
And
state
it's-
says that.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, so then I guess.
Yeah, so every student in the state of Minnesota has to have first aid and CPR.
And it would be nice if we even worked with our local fire department or the hospital or somebody. So if you took Phy Ed or you took health in 9th grade or 10th grade, and your CPR license expires the next year, or the second year, I'm not sure, if there's an opportunity for those students, either in the evening or at lunchtime or sometime, to be recertified.
I think during the open house every year that the fire department has, they have that program available.
That
During their open house every year that the fire department has, they have that capability to get that available to people if they want to recertify.
But I mean, if we brought it into our schools, so our young people, that.
I think we do it through community ed too, and they have like, they're doing lifeguarding classes, first aid and CPR, so there are opportunities for people of all ages to get recertified.
But I think what you're saying is if you take it in 9th grade, it expires 2 years later.
Either one or two.
So then you would graduate without being
Certified.
certified, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
you don't, not all, it's not mandated that you get certified in first aid and CPR, it's mandated that you get that
Get the
class
training,
and get the
okay.
training.
Yeah. So at least they're familiar, yeah,
Right.
and hopefully they remember.
Okay, good discussion.
Motion to adjourn.
Without objection, the meeting is adjourned.
Where are you going?
Thank everybody for coming here.